All right. God, I love that chromatic effect. That it's so cool. Like usually, so that's like it's called chromatic aberration. Usually chromatic aberration really turns me off, but if it's used intelligently, man, it looks so good. Simulacrum. People said I could dodge this. I don't. I guess you just dodge the big ones.
Deep space.
Deep space. Look at that. The leech and the regen? By the way? Astral Avalanche. All right. So I just dodged the big ones, huh? Okay.
Solar Storm.
And you could just stand on her for the Solar Storm, huh?
Simulacrum.
Simulacrum.
How unexpected.
My victory was never in question.
Where's the loot? Hello, friends. Welcome to Wednesday morning at 2 a.m. 5th day and the 4th installment. I know I missed yesterday, but we'll get into that, of the Arc Witch updates for 3.17. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about why I missed yesterday and what this is going to be about. So at the beginning of this series, I tried my best to set the intention of, hey, this is the build that I'm going to be playing in 3.17. It will be a bit of a build process, a build workshop, and I just want to bring you all along for the ride and talk through my decisions and show you what my items are and how they're changing, what's good, what's bad, etc., etc. My real intention here is not to create a build that you copy paste, but to see my decisions either through the successes and the failures, see how I change things, adapt them into finding a build that I enjoy playing, and you can mix and match those types of decisions to create a build that fits for you. I felt a lot of the, this was internal to me. I put a lot of internal pressure on myself to always have it in these steps that are digestible for you guys and make sure that there's always something good for you to follow along for the folks that are following along. And I think that that was a little misguided, especially the way that builds work for me is they are very annoyance driven. And what I mean by that is I either get annoyed at not doing enough damage, or I get annoyed at maybe utility, mobility, or just dying way, way too much. And really a lot of the reaction to that negative stimulus is how I find adjustments to make a build fun to play, at least for me, and then hopefully for you guys as well if you decide to follow along. So unfortunately, a lot of what I ended up doing was just always looking at, if this were a completed build, how would it be judged? And, there's people downloading the POBs and asking very, very specific questions. And really the answer to a lot of those questions is I'm trying it out. I don't know if it's going to be good, but I'm just experimenting. I'm trying to find something that feels good to me. So yesterday was a real turning point and weird place for me in this whole process. So we kind of did the traditional thing, walking through in a way that was more build guide oriented. And I think that kind of led me down the wrong path a little bit. We kind of came around to a good place that I'm happy with now, but there were some bumps along the way. And I guess that's to be expected. But I did like the regular progression of, here's how you level the build. Let's do the defense, make sure we can get into yellow and red maps, and then let's do the offense with all of those adjustments in between, right? And I never really had time to sit down and think, how do I make this fun? How do I really tweak it and focus on the things that I care about? And this morning, I just did that. I kind of was just, I had this like low-key annoyance based on that internal pressure that I put on myself. You guys have been absolutely spectacular. Like the conversation in the YouTube comments below has actually been one of the most educational and awesome places I've seen. To me, that just means this series has been a success, and I'm very thankful for all you guys for, all of the support and everything. It is a lot of work to, especially doing all this publicly, but it has been really rewarding, especially seeing all of the wonderful comments about people enjoying their flavor of the build so far. But I needed to go a little bit off and do something that really focuses on figuring out the mechanics, the play style that fits for me, and how I can have the most fun playing this game. So without further ado, I know that was a lot of an intro there, but I really wanted to set the stage for what I'm going to be doing here. And as I'm trying to focus on, hey, I just want to play PoE, go through the messy build process that I like to go through. I know I'm doing this publicly. I have to be a little vulnerable here, but I also have to just recognize I'm doing this for me. Anyway, let's get into it. All right, the best thing I can do, of course, is just to show you some gameplay. So let's get into that. We're going to run a tier 14 Caldera that has a couple scary things here. I am currently working towards fighting the Searing Exarch again. And I, of course, because I am a Strongbox gamer, check the previous video if you haven't seen that one yet. I'm doing those strong boxes. Let's take a look at what this playstyle is and what I did. The real big thing here is I wanted to focus on just being able to go fast. Because of that, I focus on having fewer buttons to press, but also not stressing pressing more than one button at a time. That was kind of a thing that was in the back of my head. Like, I want to make sure that this feels like a one button playstyle, but here it really is kind of a 2-button playstyle. The Orb of Storms, for me, I am pressing it every single pack. I'm actually in the rhythm of pressing Orb of Storms and then Arc every single pack that I'm fighting, and it's making a really big difference in always having Onslaught up, having Frenzy charges, Power charges, and actually really nice damage and extra clear here. In addition, I actually don't remember if I had this in the previous video. It's been a couple days. I am using Herald of Ice now, which you'll notice absolutely feels good, looks good, and really cleans up that clear a lot. So let's show what we're doing here. So you'll notice I'm always just pressing Orb of Storms, and then I'm doing Arc, and then I'm Flame Dashing. Because of some of the modifiers that I went to and some of the passive tree changes, I'm actually able to Flame Dash very, very often. I also have Vol Arc, which we can do like that. Clear the whole screen really, really cleanly and nicely. Pick those things up and keep going. Pop our Strongbox. Stay away from the explosion. Keep on going. So, yeah, it's been really interesting putting this build together in front of y'all and, you know, really thinking, okay, what is the defensive layer? And if my answer for a public facing build, if my answer is don't get hit forehead, you know, that's a bad look, right? Like, no one wants to hear that. Build is not digestible for beginner players especially, and I totally understand that, and I make builds for people that have those requirements. But for me, if I'm going to play for myself, if my goal, especially early league, is to be able to farm and make good currency, I necessarily have to allow myself to be able to lean on my mechanical abilities. And I think that that's the thing that I was really just trying to avoid. I try to avoid that a lot in a lot of my builds, right? Is say like, hey, you just gotta be able to dodge those things. And I totally recognize it, right? Like that isn't a good thing for having a build that is accessible for newer players. But this is a build for me. This is my league starter. And I'm happy playing this way. With that said, you know, this is still tanky enough that I think if you are able to have a little bit of death acceptance, you know, we're in softcore trade. The goal is to be able to farm up and go fast. Then, you know, a death once in a while, especially if you had like a cast on death portal, if you really wanted to, I think that's totally acceptable. I kind of went on a little bit of a baby rant, in fact, earlier on stream today. Just a kind-hearted rant, you know, for me anyway, right? Basically saying, you know, I think we have to be careful about the. I think I used the word infestation, but you know, the encroaching certain mindsets, right? That might come from different play styles. We have to be really careful about that, and just make sure that as long as the expectations are set for the build, we have to be careful about the subjective judgment of those builds, right? If this is a soft core, hey, this is my league starter, I need to farm, and as long as you're able to reach the goals that you set out for, that is still a totally acceptable and nice build to play, right? And I think that we have to be careful about that. there's a lot of judging of builds for like specific metrics that I think actually don't matter as much, especially in softcore trade. And that's kind of the mindset of like, oh, you need good fizz mitigation, you need to run determination and armor and all that, has really crept into, and I understand it makes builds more comfortable for sure, but the mentality that it's necessary has like crept a lot into the mindset of build judgment in softcore. And that's just something I wanted to address and just say that's there. I don't believe it's the best, healthiest thing, but you know, my take on it is I'm going to ignore that for now, and I'm going to play a build how I like to play it. So anyway, hopefully at least that demonstration of gameplay showed to you that it can be a pretty, already at this level of investment. I don't know, I'm somewhere between 5 and 7 exalts. I kind of lost count. I just kind of started playing on my own, not counting, but I'm no more than 7 exalts right now. That's really on the high end of what I might have invested. I can run T14, T16 maps, clear them really, really quickly. I maybe die, you know, I roll them up really, really hard, and I maybe die on average 1 in 5 maps. And that's really acceptable enough for me, for my goal, to run as quickly as possible, run the juiciest maps that I can, and really get some pretty good loot. You know, I had no money this morning at all before the stream, and, you know, I'm over 7 raw exalts right now, just farming, running maps, not doing anything really challenging, just being a strongbox gamer, strongboxes and essences. That's my jam right now. And yeah, I'm really happy with this build. And in fact, I'm at the point now where I would declare this as a league starter, both successful. You know, for less than 7 exalts, I have killed all of the new bosses in the game. I've killed Cirrus. I'm still working on getting to Maven. But, you know, I've killed Cirrus, all 4 of the new bosses. In terms of a league starter, for 5 exalts, killing all the new bosses in the game, and being able to farm high red maps very comfortably and fast, I'm just going to declare this a very solid league starter, to the point where I would actually say it's performing better than I anticipated. Hopefully for the people that are following along are also getting a little bit of that experience, and they're having a great time as well. Through all that, I just wanted to address a couple of the real keystone points here for what I've changed, and not really draw too much attention to the details and really the nitty gritty. Also, I do very much want to call out that my profile is always public. You can always import it through POB. You can just go here to import, account name, subtractum, click start, go down to arch nemesis. Shockingly Good Coffee is the character's name. So you can always just import my account publicly and see exactly what I'm doing day to day as I start making some crazy changes. So if you really want to see me do really weird things, maybe put on some funny gear and just try it out, that will always be available, and you can see what I'm doing. So yeah, gear-wise, you'll notice that I am using 2 wands. This is probably the most specific notable change that I've done, and it was actually spurred on by inspiration from a random thing that happened. So what happened this morning is I was spamming some of this Eldritch Ichor on my boots, and I hit the cooldown recovery rate of travel skills. And I thought, you know what? I am kind of annoyed at how the playstyle really was, you know, walk around slowly, get an occasional flame dash. You know, the goal was, /is, have a really nice dagger and be able to whirling blades around. However, at the current step and stage that we're at, I don't have gem sockets for it, and I have not been able to find a good enough dagger for me that's worth buying. We need to have baby steps and get to something that at least feels good to farm and feels good to play. And so what I did is I hit this cooldown recovery rate of travel skills, which for reference is an Eater of Worlds implicit, which is the blue ones. I am also using increased movement speed from the Searing Exarch, which is great. I saw that and I thought, you know what might really fix some of this clunkiness for me is just more flame dashing. We have so much cast speed that even the non-first flame dash, you know, usually there's that little bit of delay when you're casting it. We have so much cast speed. It's actually just crispy no matter what. We can just spam it. And how do we get more flame dashes? Well, I went to the tree and I just typed in the word movement, and I saw these things glowing up here. And I thought, not only is this 30% cooldown recovery rate, but it's also 16% cast speed and 40% more mana regen. This solves a lot of the things that are kind of bothering me, and it's got some damage on top of that. So that sounds really, really cool. So what I did is I unspec'd Arcane Sanctuary. I bought this wand for 20 chaos this morning. It was just sitting there on the market, crafted spell damage on it. And respect into mysticism. This gives me an additional 30% CDR, and then we have 16% up here, where my flame dash is actually 2.01 seconds on the cooldown. I can spam this pretty reliably, and you attack a pack of monsters. That's going to take 1 to 2 seconds, and then you keep going and you get another flame dash. You run for 1 second, another flame dash, and that really made a big difference for just being able to move around and feel a lot better. Also, I trimmed down my buttons. As you can see, I removed both Sigil of Power and the Frost Shield. While they were both good and provided value, I kind of wanted to just like remove that clutter from my brain. I wanted to really simplify the feel of the build and focus on the real quality that I think would make it just feel good for me. By removing those gem sockets and moving these points into Sovereignty with the Mastery for more mana reservation, I was actually able to sneak in Herald of Ice, which you saw a few minutes ago. Really helps the clear, makes the build feel better, and just gives us that aesthetic, that crunch that we really crave. That's the crunch that we crave. Another really big thing that I have here, and I think I had this in the last video, is I have Onslaught and Ice Bite with my Orb of Storms. Now, this is not ideal for the Orb of Storms. Probably the real endgame setup is Tailwind, Onslaught, Elusive Boots, so we don't have to worry about any of that through our gem links. But this ensures that as long as I am doing my Orb of Storms right before my arc, that I always have Frenzy charges, and I also have Power charges through Power Charge on crit, and I have Onslaught all the time. That really smooths out the feel of the character, makes it feel really fast and crispy, and I just get that comfort level of being able to walk around, dodge all the moves, dodge all the attacks, and I have more reliable, consistent damage as well because I just have really, really fast cast speed. And that's really, I think, the most important thing to playing effectively. I don't think there's been any other gem link changes really, except that I did link Molten Shell with increased duration support. The main reason for that, and I would actually prefer to keep cast on damage taken, but cast on damage taken, you want both those gems at level 20. That's like 3,300 HP. If I take a 3,300 HP hit, I am almost dead. So you can't really do that when you are a squishier character. So I ended up just putting on my left click, and that's good enough. Gear-wise, I believe that this is all almost exactly the same. We have another wand, spell damage, crit chance, +1 all lightning. Same thing as my original one. Nothing crazy here. The cool things, this is actually the really, really cool tech, is on gloves, we can get Unnerve and either cold or lightning damage leached as life. This is, as you saw in the clip at the beginning, this is absolutely crazy for us just to be able to stay alive and leech through really, really scary things. That leech combined with the fact that I have 696 life regen all the time, I'm actually, as long as I don't get one hit, I'm able to sustain through some really crazy things. Now, I do get one shot a moderate amount of the time, but I'm okay with that. I really just like that sustain, and it just feels really nice. In addition to that, the chance to unnerve enemies, that's 10% increased damage taken. That is a more multiplier. I don't think we have any other increased damage taken at the moment. So that was a gigantic boost that's actually really, really noticeable. In terms of the passive tree, I'm not going to go into every little tiny change that I might have made. It's been a couple days, but you can tell right away that there has been one really notable change. And that is we are using a medium Thread of Hope up here. This allows us to hit Arcane Will, get these Cruel Preparation nodes still, so we get some life, hit Herald of Thunder, Breath of Lightning, and Golem Commander. This is basically perfect for our build. I strongly recommend this. I bought this for about 100 Chaos, I think. I can only assume that the price is going to go down as the supply goes up. Hopefully, this is really, really good. It saved me like 14 passive points. As soon as you can get this, I strongly, strongly recommend it. The other thing that I did down here is I grabbed Prodigal Perfection. This gives us 20% max mana, which is really nice, and 2% spell damage per 100 max mana. Since we now have 1600 max mana, that is 32% increased damage. So for 3 points, this is actually really, really worth. The other one little thing here is to round out my critical strike chance. I have a medium cluster jewel. Later on, this will move to a 3 passive large cold cluster jewel that I believe has Snowforge, Stormdrinker, and I'm not sure what the ideal third one is. We might not even go for the third one. We just want like a dud back there. So we're just going to go for the 2 notables and the 2 jewel sockets. Here, I have Basics of Pain and Precise Retaliation. 60% critical strike chance if you haven't blocked recently. Since I don't use a shield anymore, I actually can't block, right? So this node alone is always just 60% critical strike chance. This is another 20% damage and 30%. And here's another 15, right? So that's 75 plus 30. This is 105 increased critical strike chance. And then we just have another random little jewel socket here. Now, is this absolutely ideal? Probably not. Maybe quick getaway pressure points, the more typical setup would be better. But I actually really like having incredibly high critical strike chance here just to round out that damage. We're really in the currency farming part of the build, right? Like we're at the bottom of a really long ladder. And to make that climb, we got to climb up there and earn some currency and get those upgrades, right? We are now at the end of the league start phase. We got to farm up, we got to craft, and then we can get to the next stage. I am just declaring this a successful league start, at least for me. I'm happy with where it's at right now, and I'm ready to farm up and take it to the next level. So yeah, I think that's all really the notable changes right there. I am really, really happy with where this build is right now. I would love to hear more of you guys' ideas. I've seen absolutely spectacular ideas and suggestions in the YouTube comments. I have decided to just take this directly in the direction that feels comfortable for me. I am now able to farm and start to get that currency and try to figure out exactly what this is going to look like maybe in a couple more days. I don't think there's going to be any more notable changes until then. We're probably looking at kind of a jump of I need to look into 5-10 Exalt Watcher's Eyes, really get 2 to 3 more levels on my character, look out for Fractured Bases to get some good crafts, get a Helm enchant, stuff like that. So it's going to be a little bit longer of a process after today. I'll still be doing the daily updates of what I was working on and maybe just looking a little bit more into the mindset and approach of a lot of the strategies that I'm going to be using to try to farm up and upgrade this character. And maybe that's just a fun way that we can look into both upgrading our character and look at this through, okay, league start and how we're going to approach the rest of the league. Anyway, that has to be it for me now. Oh man, it is 2:30 in the morning. I went a little long there, but hopefully this has been educational and interesting to you. And I really got across what I'm trying to do here, and it's helpful for you guys, right? The reason why I'm sharing this with you all is I want to bring you along with me, and I want to see your successes as well. So yeah, absolutely let me know in the comments down below. I love hearing like the cool stuff that you guys are doing. And like someone showed me the brittle ground that they were using with the new implicit on the boots. And there's some really, really cool stuff out there. So anyway, let me know in the comments below, and I need to go get to editing this video and get to bed so we can get back to it tomorrow, keep on upgrading and keep on farming. So anyway, as always, don't forget to have fun. Thank you for watching. I appreciate you so much, and I'll see y'all tomorrow. Goodbye.